Hey guys, Chris here with the Blue Collar Success Group, back again for another vendor voice. And today I'm really excited. And the reason why is because we're going to talk about a subject that some of you probably think is not relevant anymore. We're going to bring relevance back to the person that we've got on today. Brian, how are you doing, my friend?
Good, Chris. Appreciate you having me.
Good,
I want,
man. So good to be able to dive into a topic that some people thought died. I just curious. Let's have this conversation. Why do you think it is that some people think that direct mail's dead?
that's a good question. It's a traditional form of marketing, right?
Mm,
And there's this preconceived notion that it's old school. Millennials might not respond to it, which is absolutely false.
mm,
But the reality too, digital is flooded. It's a great form of marketing, right? I'm a huge proponent of it. They all have to work together. But I think the fact that there's such a mass inflection into digital social ads that there's this preconceived notion that direct mail's dead, you know. Um, but I think with that it also lends opportunity, Chris, right?
mm.
With Google Analytics constantly changing, pay per click increasing cost wise, SEO, LSA increasing, and less marketing magazines or bills being in the mail increases opportunity for transparency and visibility, right? So I look at it as more of an opportunity, but I
Mm.
think that could be the
Wow.
reason why. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, I mean, we obviously know how I feel about direct mail. You make a very interesting point where a lot of people went purely digital and they abandoned traditional avenues of marketing. And I mean, gosh, direct mail's been around for a very long time. And when you really traditionally look at direct mail for what it is, not really much has changed with it either. So when I look at it, I almost see this modality of marketing that has not really been that disrupted by technology and these other things. Yes, it shifted people away from it, but to your point, Brian, there's gold in the hills. Why?
Yeah.
Because all the competition got out of it. And most people go, well, then that means it must stop working. Brian, won't you do me a favor? Let's double down right now as we talk about direct mail, because I know that this is going to be a very valuable conversation for our members to hear. When you are looking at direct mail, what do you think are the key ingredients to someone finding success with direct mail?
That's a good question too. Number of things, right? Consistency is very important. It's we see far too often people don't commit to a strategy in marketing, and that can
Mm,
be anything, right? Not necessarily just direct mail, any digital play, billboards, radio, TV. Uh, Getting a plan in place, committing to a strategy, implementing some best practices from a creative perspective is very important as well, right? Trust signals are critical. Having offers that are evergreen in the trades is also very important for HVAC, for example. One that we talk about all the time is, don't just put an AC tune-up on there, tie in a furnace tune-up as well. Because the reality is with direct mail, if you only tie in an AC tune-up, they might not need your service for another 6 months, and then it might be furnace tune-up time, right? So
mm,
providing evergreen offers that provide longevity is critical. So those are two components. And segmenting the list properly and really understanding your goals and how to execute on the best list in term from a target audience perspective is absolutely important. So those are the three probably most important things I would say. And then lastly, something that we do that's a little bit unique, Chris, at MailShark is that incorporating a variety of products, right?
mm,
Where we see people fail with direct mail is they'll get attached to something like a postcard, which is a great piece. We promote the heck out of them. Um, but it can get stale, right? So somebody might tie into the same creative and do the same thing over and over and over again because it's easy, right? But then that
mm.
response rate will start to diminish a little bit because people have seen it so frequently, right? So from a new customer acquisition response rate, it might drop off a little. So a couple little tidbits there to chew on.
Interesting that you bring that up. We didn't talk a little bit about this at all, Brian, but I like when I think of direct mail, I think direct mail has as much versatility as digital does. When I use the word digital, it's SEO, pay per click, LSA, and then you get into technical terms of like YouTube, social media, like all of those are the digital world that are on screens.
Right.
But direct mail's actually got several different what I'm going to call clear opportunities for di the direct mail to do a certain thing. So radius mailers,
Yep.
full mail. Give our audience kind of a rundown, Brian, of like, because when I think direct mail, I think, oh, it's just a piece in the mailbox, but there's so much more strategies behind some of those things. Why don't you kind of articulate those to our members so they can kind of wrap their mind around that?
Yeah, there is a lot of strategies, right? And I think a lot of it really depends on, what the goals are for the customer. What is it,
Mhm.
are they looking for acquisition? Are they looking for retention? A combination of the two. What's the segmentation of that audience within your customer database, right? If you're looking at retention plays. And that's really how we dictate what campaign or set of campaigns makes the most sense for a member. Um,
Hang on, time out, Brian. I want everybody to hear what Brian just said. He said it depends on what the campaign is or what the campaigns are. So, in other words, not just run one campaign, running multiple campaigns so that you're kind of getting the best of both worlds there. So keep going. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, 100%. So like you hit the nail on the head with radius mailings, right? That's a great example to kind of peel back the onion layer and dive into, right? So if we have a customer who has minimal or operational capacity, can't really take on too many more clients, but has the capacity for installs because they're big tickets, right? They might want to implement a radius campaign. And basically what that is for the audience that doesn't know, you're chasing big ticket installs, right? So for
Mm.
example, for an HVAC client, they might have a team that's very specialized in installs. That's what they're great at, and they can find the bandwidth and the operational capacity to open up the jobs for that. So, radius mailings essentially we automate these campaigns through integrations where we pull every install that's executed through a period of time. We export that, and then we hit the closest 50 to 100, 150, 200 addresses around that install with some demographic overlays, Chris. And basically, what that means is that we're going to only hit homeowners, single family homes with solid incomes and solid home values, right? In neighborhoods where you did installs. So if we live in a suburban neighborhood that's 18 years old and you had an install, there's a very high probability that I need that as well. No guarantee, but just a higher probability from a timing perspective. So that's one way of kind of, peeling back the layer and looking at it, the audience segmentation in terms of how you can, you know, justify which way to go with one campaign versus another. That
That's
makes sense.
interesting, Brian. I try to connect dots of like how business works to certain things in life that the average person would be able to understand. And the way that I describe radius mailers is like fishing. If you go fishing and you catch a fish right here, that probably lets you know there's probably some fish around here unless it was a
Yep.
one-off, right?
Yeah.
If I'm fishing here, the probability is if I can get the right message and I can get the right frequency because everything is all about messaging and frequency, right? Hitting the right person with the right message at the right time. I think there's much more fish to be caught there. But the
Yeah.
great news is, Brian, you guys do something a little bit different. And I want you to talk a little bit about matchbacks and things of that so that, I mean, how do I even know if direct mail is actually working? So,
Sure.
Brian, maybe talk a little bit about how would I know if it's working and what MailShark does to be a little different there.
Yeah, no, it's a good one too. So yeah, we do things a little bit different at MailShark. We take a very data-driven, consultative, analytical approach, not only on the front end, but also on the back end, right? Proof of concept with any marketing is absolutely critical, Chris. So, the number one form of tracking, with direct mail, especially in the trades, home services, is typically call tracking, right? Everyone knows what that is. You put a phone number on the piece, it reroutes the landline, they document it through a software that collects how many calls they got, how many converted, et cetera, which is a great tool. We promote that more as a way for internal training, to make sure your call centers are handling, the calls properly. And it loses some data, right? For example, Chris, we were speaking earlier, like 86% of people that are looking for a new home service provider are going to Google, looking at reviews first. So call tracking will lose some data there. So what we utilize is something called a matchback report. It's not groundbreaking, right? A lot of companies execute on this. And basically what it takes is your mailing list, right? What we all the customers or all the prospects that we're mailing to, and it matches back to the CRM data on a daily basis, right? And that's a lot of companies do that manually. So we know, Chris, if you got a mailer from us, say a week ago, and you scheduled a service call today, and we pulled that list tomorrow, we'd be able to attribute, the revenue there and that
Mm.
service call to that, right? So we know that that's performing on X amount of level. We took it to the next level where we, have integrations with Service Titan, House Call Pro, Successware, Field Pulse, and hopefully in a couple months we'll be with Field Edge. We're working with them through conversations now where we can automate that, right? So every single day we're pulling that data, all the completed jobs for all of our members that are integrated, and we automatically match that back. We can
Mm.
segment that down on a radius mailing campaign to show you whether or not it's working, what the response rate is, what the return on ad spend is. Prospecting campaigns, which are more on a neighborhood level, right? Very data-driven approach, more on a neighborhood level. And retention campaigns, whatever the segmentation is, that retention mailer, right? Whether it's membership renewals, whether it's lapsed customers, whatever the case might be. But then even further than that, we drill down on the format, right? So how's the postcard performing compared to a plastic postcard? How's the plastic postcard, performing compared to a magnet mailer?
Mm.
What that does, Chris, it's multifold, right? It gives our customers transparency, trust, but allows my team to work with our customers and make data-driven decisions on how to improve on their marketing efforts, right? So if you think, are you familiar with what a carrier route is, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if you're mailing to 20 carrier routes, and that could be 10,000 addresses, right? A lot of these service areas are 500,000 addresses. So we're able to identify what's working, where it's working, and the demographics associated with where they're working and make decisions on how to improve. So, for example, if one of your routes is underperforming, but you're killing it overall, we'd say, Chris, you're killing it, man. But let's reallocate these funds from this route that you got nothing from, and let's farm over here
Yeah.
because you still have 490,000 addresses we can tap into.
Yeah.
And we take an analytical approach into that as well. So that's something that's a little bit different in terms of how we do things. Yeah.
Well, you bring up a really interesting point, Ryan, and this is where we get hung up. I'm gonna go all the way back to my early days of owning and operating. This will go back in 2013. So one of the questions that we asked on the phone, and that was early in, right? How did you hear about us?
Yeah.
That's one question. Second question, and where did you find our number? And so when we quit doing that and we tied everything with a specific tracking number, which I had tracking numbers back then as well, so I could
Mhm.
truly see that. The challenge is getting all this data to talk to each other. And with
Yeah.
the world we live in today, we can absolutely do that. I
Mhm.
say the difference between attribution and action. And what you're hearing from Brian right now is really the conversation of we mailed all of these people. The last 100 service calls that you had may have only attributed, right? The action may have only came from 10 of those.
Wow.
But if we looked at in the database of all the people that we mailed, there's somewhere else in the system that came through another modality of getting into the business. So the way that I look at it is direct mail is another one of those. And I don't know, I'm once again, I have a marketing degree, but I've been told that the number is seven, right? You got to have seven interactions with something before it sticks. Well, the direct mail piece becomes another interaction piece that I get. And in some cases, what you just heard Brian talk about was they get the direct mail piece. Oh, geez, let me go look that company up. And while they're there, they're like, let me just give them a call. So Google wins the war for that. And direct mail is like, oh, well, it doesn't work. But there are some strategies around that that Brian just shared that helps us to kind of tie things back together because, who actually calls the telephone number on the side of a truck? Well, you can only know that if it's a dedicated tracking number that's not
Right.
used anywhere else, right? But if
Yep.
you ask someone, how did you hear about us? They would say, I see your trucks. Direct mail is no different.
Yeah,
I'm a big believer in that.
yeah, it's interesting that you tie it back to the truck play because it's very relative, right? It's a branding play. Direct mail
Yep.
is interesting because it's a branding play and a conversion play, right?
Yes,
It
it
goes it's
is.
through the entire funnel, top of funnel, middle of funnel, and then direct conversions the bottom of funnel. So it hits every element of it. And you can get strategic with, where the people are within that portion of the process as well from a creative end of things. But you're 100% right. Like if you're in the home constantly in the mailbox, it's a branding play, just like, wrapping a truck and seeing it multiple times on a daily basis. So very similar from that perspective.
I'm gonna come at you from left field. Have you guys ever tested doing direct mails in I'm gonna call it same campaign, but actually testing, do you guys A/B test offers?
We have, yeah. It's
Okay.
interesting you brought that up. And that dashboard actually, that I was referencing earlier makes it super simple to understand that, right?
Mhm.
And there's so many ways to skin the cat from an A/B test perspective. Are we testing the messaging on the same format? Are we testing the format? Or, I'm sorry, different messaging, but on the same format? Are we testing, offers on the same format? So it makes it very simple for us to kind of segment that out within the dashboard and understand, is the magnet overperforming compared to the postcard, or is the plastic postcard overperforming or underperforming compared to the magnet, and so on and so forth. But to answer your question, yeah, what I would say is, for members that are looking to do that, make sure you have the segmentation of the audiences similar. They have to be the same, right? And the timing needs to be the same. So it's very simple to do it incorrectly. So whoever you're working with, is make sure they drill down and whatever audience that you're hitting is as apples to apples as humanly possible for
Well,
whatever test that you're executing.
otherwise, it's kind of like we direct mailed to this demographic with this message, and then this demographic with this message. Well, it's
Yeah,
kind of like trying to compare apples to oranges. Which one worked better? Well, it's like you might have got this right over here, but who's to say that wouldn't have worked over here as well? So
yeah,
let's talk
exactly.
about that for a minute. How do you
Okay.
guys actually define what the right audience is for someone to target?
Yeah, it's a good question too. I mean, I would also say that that really depends on the goals, right? What campaign are they looking to execute? Acquisition, segmentation, and like how do we define audience is going to be different than targeted. I'll dive
Mm,
into acquisition, for example. Like I mentioned earlier, we take a very data-driven approach, and this is really where the analysis portion starts, right? So, first step in the process is through those integrations, we pull customer data, right? Understanding and analyzing customer data is the most important portion of the process. So, say we go 2 years, 3 years back, we plot that data on a map to identify geographically, Chris, where those customers come from. Is it 3 miles? Is it 20 miles? Where is your reach, essentially, from a distance perspective? But then what we do is we overlay the demographic information on top of that, right, on an
mm,
address level basis. That's a very common practice in this industry. And you look at things like median income, how many, home value, and we
mm,
plot that on carrier routes, right? So we can tell customers you have 10 customers in this carrier route. That's a 6% penetration percentage. The average ticket in that route is $800, right? What's the total spent? So we analyze all those things, but what we do is we take it a step further, and we recently launched an AI-backed analysis tool that reads those penetration reports and applies composite scoring to each demographic. And
mm.
then it builds out and segments a customer profile and ranks each neighborhood carrier route on a composite scoring system and essentially tells customers where they should be going, right? It's great.
Wow.
It's great. But tying that back to that ROAS dashboard that I mentioned earlier, um, is awesome because it makes the consultative process seamless, right? And so
Mm.
for my team, our recommendations when you work with one rep versus another is going to be the same, so it's consistent across the board, which is extremely important for us, right?
Because it's not a matter of opinion, it's a
It's a
matter of
matter of
data.
fact. Exactly. Yep.
I,
Yeah. And we can have customers say, I still know I want to go here, right, for whatever reason,
yeah.
even though the data, and that's fine. We're just providing them with information to make the best decision for their business. And ultimately it's up to them. We just guide them, right?
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
would be great, Brian. And this goes back to just recently we ran a group coaching call, and I said I made this statement, and I continue have always lived by this. When it comes to marketing, follow the money. Like follow the money wherever the money's at. That's like we're not marketing for free services. We're marketing for things that people pay for, and
Yeah.
typically people are premium service providers, so they have premium pricing.
Mm.
So finding the right customer is really important. And not just finding the right customer, but finding the customer who needs us. Not
Yep.
just can they afford us, but do they need us based on all of the data. And this is beautiful because it just ran through some manual ways for our clients to be able to see this. And you're hearing it today from MailShark saying, hey, we got all the tools. We can show you where the stuff is at. And, I use between citydata.com and EDDM mail routes to kind of overlay and show. But Brian, you bring a really interesting point as well, which is if the client says, no, 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 I also want to mail this as well, it's because I know my market, right? So I'm in a very unique market of elderly people, and I'm also in a market where there's a significant amount of people that are outside of the country. So their income doesn't show up in the house they live in. It might rank low, but I might know, hey, in this area, there's a lot of people from Europe and Asia and all that. Like, let's go hit this area because I know that's my customer.
Yeah, retirees too.
Yeah,
And you see
exactly.
seasonal addresses, like it's hard. Sometimes you can't match back all that demographic data. So, understanding your market's extremely important. So,
Yeah.
like I can't reference that enough. Something I didn't mention about that tool too, Chris, is like what it does is it takes the top 25% of customers and it analyzes that and builds a profile, right? And then within that report, when we send it back, it basically builds out histograms and segments out, every $10,000 of income. Here's how many customers you have from 90K to 100K. Here's how many you have from 100 to 110. And it does the same for home value. So it's just, you know, I want people to understand what we offer, but also, it can become analysis paralysis sometimes, right? So we rank them.
Yeah.
It's it, yeah,
We're gonna
right.
make you're gonna make the decision easy for the contractor, right? It's like tell us who to go after from here.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna direct mail, but how would I know if this is actually working? How would you guys say tracking and measuring success? How would you know?
Yeah, yeah, we touched on it a little bit earlier, right? Like, so that ROAS dashboard is extremely important. So we can implement a number of ways, a number of tracking mechanisms, right? One is the call tracking, which is it tells you what the dashboard doesn't show is conversions for calls, right?
Mm,
So like, is my team handling those calls properly, right? We can provide that. We don't lean on that as the end all be all, right? Because some of the reasons why that we mentioned earlier, but the integration through ServiceTitan, Successware, Field Pulse, hopefully Field Edge soon as well, allows us to pull that customer data 24/7, match it back to a physical address, and then we give them a dashboard that drills down for each campaign type, each format, and it shows the length of the campaign, the number of pieces mailed, the cost of the campaign, the expense, um, and the return on ad spend, right? And that can be segmented out for radius mailers, new homeowner mailers, strictly prospecting carrier route acquisition mailers, um, all the way to any type of segmentation within targeted data, that a customer is looking to execute. And so, to tie it back to the A/B testing as well, that's where the data lives, right? And it's very user friendly. Every customer has what we refer to as a profile within our portal that they can drop down and analyze that data 24/7, right?
mm,
And then in turn, fast forward 6 months of mailing with us, my team sits down and has, a consultative analysis process looking at that data and determining what's working, what's not working, right? Where should we go from here? What product was getting the best results within that market, versus which ones weren't? And then we just pivot, we make adjustments,
mm.
right?
So this is not set it and forget it. MailShark saying, "Hey, we're going to get started based on these parameters, but once we execute, then we're going to go back and look." So you're helping clients, our clients, to be able to decide what works and what doesn't work. And it's strictly based on data, not gut, because I see people do this a lot. I only got 4 calls. I spent X. Cost per call is call it $200, and that's just too expensive. We gotta kill direct mail. When the
Yep.
reality is the $200 for the 4 leads you got generated you $20,000.
Yeah. Yeah. We could show that.
Yeah.
Right. And the great thing about this too is like we can actually adjust the attribution period, the window within that software. So
Oh.
if you want to say like, hey, give me a week out, right? That's an unrealistic analysis because the reality is home services, it's a major garage purchase. No one's trying to spend 10, 12 grand to replace a unit. This is the
Mhm.
reality of life, right? So it takes time, but giving them the ability to adjust that attribution window just builds more confidence in the product, right? If we want to look at a 30-day window, if we want to look 60, 90, whatever the case might be, we can do that, right? With the click
Mm,
of a couple buttons. So
wow.
I love that component about it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Uh, Brian, I want to kind of put a bow on where we're at right now, but is there anything else, Brian? Is MailShark got anything going on you want to talk about, or anything else you want to share with our members? And I'm going to talk a little bit about how they can find you.
Yeah, we have some great things in the works, man. We're about a couple weeks out from launching automated trigger campaigns, which are great. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically through any segmentation within your CRM, right? And we use first class mailing. Print in homes is about 3 to 5 days. So some benefits of that is that from segmentation within your CRM to receiving the piece is very quick, right?
Mm.
From print in homes very quick. So some examples of where this is going to be useful is like thank you mailers, right? Service reminders, decline services, cross-sell of multiple services. So if you offer HVAC, electrical, plumbing, or two of the three, and you sign somebody up, you sell them an HVAC unit, you should thank them right away. That's a very important part of the process. But also, hey, did you also know, Chris, that we offer electrical and plumbing too? Here's
Oh,
some
it's okay,
special.
Brian. My technicians talk to all the homeowners about all that stuff, and we know how that works, right?
Right, right. But they might not need it right now. They might know, but they
Yeah.
might not need it now, right? So if you send a magnet that gets hung on the refrigerator
As a
that has
token for
a
future
schedule, exactly.
services.
Yeah, and if there's a football schedule on it, right? And 4 months down the road, they might have that piece, or maybe it's a plastic postcard they punched out and put in their wallet. So
Mm.
we've done some beta testing with some companies, and like a cross sell service, for example, we're seeing a 19% higher lift rate than just standard retention mailers, right? And a very high return on ad spend. And another one we beta tested was it's basically like a expressed interest program. Someone visited the website, called, scheduled a call, but didn't follow through with it, like an abandoned shopping cart, for lack of a better example. We're able to, it depends on how the data is segmented within the CRM, but if executing those campaigns, we saw an 11% higher response rate than standard acquisition campaigns for prospecting.
Wow.
So it works, right? Which we're excited about. That's one thing. And the next thing I'm very excited about that we're close to being completed with that AI tool that analyzes, um, customer data and automates where they should, not automates, but makes recommendations on where they should mail.
Hmm.
We're merging that with our return on ad spend dashboard. And
Okay.
the benefit there is we're going to utilize AI to try to like gamify the process and automatically flag routes that are underperforming, automatically flag routes, Chris, that are overperforming. I know that sounds crazy to say overperforming. What does that mean? But the reality is if you have 20% of customers in a given carrier route, your response rate now is going to start to diminish. It's not that you want to stop marketing there, it's that your return on ad spend for that route is going to go down too. So you put it more into a maintenance mode. Let's pivot. Instead of
Hmm.
hitting 6 or 10 times a year, maybe we hit them quarterly or 3 times, right? Stay in front of them, but you're not going to get the same amount out of that marketing now because you've acquired so many there. So those
Right.
are things that we're doing that's going to help take us to the next level that we're super excited about.
Wow, exciting stuff. And for all of our members to hear, if you're interested in learning more about MailShark, remember that membership does have its privileges. I say that a lot. And in addition to that, I also want to remind you that you can reach out to MailShark, have conversation with them. On the left-hand side, once you've logged into the Blue Collar Vault, you're going to find the Blue Collar Elite Buy tab. Once you click on that, you're going to scroll down, you're going to find MailShark and all their contact information along with all of the details along with the relationship that you have being part of the Blue Collar Success Group. I want to say thank you, Brian, for sharing your time, effort, and energy here today with our members, educating us on direct mail and remembering that direct mail is not dead. It is certainly not dead. It's alive and well. Brian, I want to move into our fun facts finale. We couldn't have a vendor voice without doing a fun facts finale.
Yeah, like
Brian,
it.
I'm going to ask you a series of questions, rapid fire, about you personally. It helps our members to get to know you and what
Yeah,
you're up to. And, sometimes some fun conversations come out. So, are you ready for this?
love it. Let's do it.
Okay, great. So, which goes better together, peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter and chocolate, and why?
Peanut butter and chocolate. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been hooked on Reese's since I was a kid, man. Little kid. I love them.
Ah, the Reese's
Can't
peanut
give you
butter
a
cup.
definitive reason why. I will say though, a grilled, I don't know if you ever had a sauteed or grilled peanut butter and jelly. That's next level. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'm
That's
picking up what you're laying down, and I'm a foodie, so my
yeah,
mind is starting to go places where I'm like, what would I
yeah.
saute a peanut butter and jelly
Yeah,
sandwich in?
like a grilled cheese, but you make it with peanut butter and jelly. That's next
Heck,
level.
okay.
That's
All
good.
right. I got that. Okay. If you could choose a Bronco, a Jeep, or a Cybertruck, which one is it?
A Jeep, I
A
would say.
Jeep. All right.
Yeah.
Score for
Yep.
the Jeep.
So,
Score for the
yeah, just because
Jeep.
I've had one. That's an old car of mine. Yeah.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, I'm on my
Yeah.
second Jeep right now as we're talking
Okay.
about that. I don't mean to get
Nice. Yeah, that was
sideways.
my first new car purchase personally,
Okay. Oh,
years ago.
wow.
So
Okay,
it's
you're right
it's not
on.
like yeah,
Okay. So, coffee or tea,
coffee,
and how do you prepare it?
black.
Straight
Yep.
black.
Well, if it's
Okay.
piping hot, I'll put a little cream in there just to cool it off, but I'm a coffee chugger.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. How about this one? If your house is on fire and you can only grab three things, and your pets and your family are already safe, what would you take?
Oof, man, that's a tough one. Probably my work computer. I hate to admit that, but it's the truth. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Work
Oof.
computer's going with you?
I'm not attached to material things, honestly. Yeah, it sounds crazy to say.
Okay.
I'd have to
What's a
pass on that, probably, baby.
what's a childhood favorite food that you still secretly or not so secretly love?
Gummy snacks, man. I,
Gummy snacks.
yeah, I
Is it
know
a
that's
gummy bear?
crazy.
Is it a specific one, a gummy bear or gummy worm
Watch
or
any of them. Yeah, like do you know like the ones that come in little packs? We have some upstairs. Yeah, they're like gummy bears, but they're not. They claim to be healthy with vitamin C and all that
Oh
crap.
yeah, I got you. I got you. Anything gummy. All right. Question for you. If you had a rewind button or a pause button for your life, which one would you rather have?
Oof, pause. Yeah, just to get caught up, man. Take a breather.
Hmm.
Not hit
Gotcha.
reset per se, but just right
Hmm.
for a few minutes. Yeah, I have no regrets. Don't need to rewind anything there. I love where life is, and every once in a while, I just need to pause for a few minutes and take a deep breath. Right?
Soak it in, right? Life does come pretty fast.
Sure
Uh,
does.
question for you.
Mhm.
What's a movie that everyone loves, but you feel is overrated?
Whew, Dirty Dancing.
Oh, it crushed my heart.
Did I?
Oh, oh,
It's
oh.
great. I shouldn't say it's overrated. What I would say is it's oversaturated, right?
Hmm.
I've too much for me.
I
Yeah,
was a
but
I was
it's good.
I was a teenage boy at that time, Brian, and I was very intrigued by watching Dirty Dancing.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, just the whole setting and everything was a really it's a top three for me. Um,
Oh man, I'm sorry.
no, hey, it's okay.
Dagger in the heart.
If
Yeah.
it makes you feel any better, Top Gun's my favorite all time. So
Yeah,
there
I'm not
you
no complaints there. I love
go.
that
Okay,
movie.
right,
Yeah.
all right. Here we go. This is it.
Okay.
If you were a professional wrestler, what would your entrance music be?
Whew, man. Something probably from Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre from
Okay.
back in 2000. I couldn't tell you exactly which one, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So if I'm hearing Brian, something a little gangster yet
Yep.
PC that you can walk
Yeah.
out to.
Correct. Yeah. I'd have to
Great.
double back on the exact song, but that's
That's
probably the one.
okay. Hey, we'll leave the viewers in suspense on what it is. And next time they see you, Brian, they're going to come up to you and be like, "What's the name of that song you'd walk
I
out to again?"
love it. Yeah. I'll
So
think
now
of
you'll
it
know.
probably 30 minutes from now, and then I'll shoot you a note back and say,
Last question. We're going to wrap this thing up. If you had to pick one condiment that represented your personality, what would it be and why?
definitely hot sauce.
Hot
I think
sauce.
that,
Great.
yep. Can put that on anything, man.
I agree
Right.
with that, Brian. I agree a
Yeah.
thousand percent.
Popcorn,
So let's
all-
clarify.
okay.
What's your favorite brand?
Man, it's hard to narrow it down. My default's usually Crystal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Louisiana
very
hot
similar.
sauce.
Yeah, very similar just to Tabasco. That's
Yep.
my default.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a starting point, right? And then if you want to throw in some butter to make some hot wings, you can do that. It's I like the simple base point for hot sauce, and then you can
Hmm.
add to it, right?
Yeah.
What about you?
Interesting enough, Chelsea and I have an entire section of our refrigerator that
Nice.
is reserved for hot sauces. That's how much of a hot sauce connoisseur I am.
I
So
love it.
Brian, is there a such thing as too hot of hot sauce?
Oh, yeah, there is for me.
Okay.
That's a high point though. I can handle the heat, but
Okay.
it's, doing it repeatedly is where it really gets you, right?
Yeah, you can go in
Hammer
once and give it a break, but if you got to keep
it.
eating it, you got to
Yeah.
be willing to go for the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, I can go like habaneros. I actually feel like jalapeno is hotter than a habanero. It's like the habanero flavor tastes better to me. But then when you start getting the ghost peppers, that's where I kind of draw the limit. That's about, you know what I mean? That's too hot, man. Yeah.
I'm good with the sauces. I'm just not good with a bad flavor. I tell people all the time, like, is it hot or does it taste good? They're like, it's just hot. And I'm like, I want it
Yeah.
to taste good if it's going to be hot. So,
Right.
Brian,
Agree.
thank you so much, man. We talk direct mail and everything else in life all in one conversation. So don't forget, if you're interested in talking to Brian and his team over at MailShark, you're going to find them located in the blue collar vault on the left-hand side. Down, you'll find them in the vendor section. You'll be able to find them and their contact information. Until then, we'll look forward to seeing you guys again in another vendor voice. Take care.
Cool.
Thank you for watching this video and subscribing. Do us a favor, comment below and tell us what your thoughts are and what your takeaways are. Remember, you're either winning or you're learning.